What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. In this episode, we talk about owning your uniqueness, freestylist talk therapy, how to get inspired after a lull, the magic of puns, and so many other things. I'm going to react to a freestyle. I'm going to close it out with my own bars. Y'all know how we do, man. This is Flow State. Let's go. This is for my Flow State. Add it. Yeah. Y'all know we back at it. Ain't it crazy how the mind works magic? We gon' show you the method behind the madness, cause this is for my... What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. This is episode 33 of the podcast, and I'm very excited to be here once again with my co-host, with for show the most, Sam. How you doing, man?
What up, what up? I'm doing well. How about you?
I am doing good. Yeah, we're back. Last episode, we were in LA recording live from the Flotel room.
That was epic.
It was epic.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun. Now we're back in the basement, and you are over my shoulder.
Yeah, man. Just lurking.
I'll try not to pull my back again. But I won't even try to look at you.
I got your back, bro.
Indeed, literally. That's what we need. Is I should just have a monitor right here, with a camera pointing at you.
Just a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, back on the East Coast. And, excited to be here, as always. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting the podcast. Lots of great comments so far on the solo episodes that we've been rolling out. And it always just makes me feel excited to see that people are excited for the return.
Definitely. A lot of questions came in, too, since the last episode, which you'll love to see.
Hell yeah. Shout out to everybody sending those questions in. Keep them coming. And we have some audio and video questions this week.
Yeah, we got a few.
Okay, let's go, man. I love it. Yeah, I want to see your beautiful faces, but hearing your beautiful voices is a close second. And if you want to type it out, it's fine. No, just kidding. We appreciate any and all questions that come through to the podcast. I'm always excited to answer them for you guys. And a lot of times, most of the time, you guys have me thinking about things that I wouldn't otherwise be thinking about. So thank you for keeping me on my toes. And always great to connect with the audience, whether it's virtually or in real life. I'm going to be in Europe this summer, which I'm very excited for. I just realized I don't have my sound effects plugged in. Should I plug them in real quick?
I mean, if you can pull it off, yeah.
Oh, shit. Let's see what happens.
The SFX.
Oh, powering on. Let's see what happens. That's what I'm talking about. We dropping bombs on the industry right now.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. Yes. Okay. So sorry for the momentary interruption there, but I will be in Europe this summer. Drop the bombs on them. Can't wait to be out there. 3 festivals and 3 headlining shows. It's always a great time. Love performing on stage. It's my favorite thing to do in the whole entire world. And it's always interesting too. I mean, the festival sets in particular are a lot of fun and interesting in the sense that what we do live is, for the most part, quite different from what the other acts are doing, being as I do a pretty much fully improvised show. I do sprinkle in one, maybe 1.5 of my pre-recorded material as well. It's sort of like the reversal of what you would expect from the other acts, in the sense that when I do my pre-recorded material, those aren't often the most engaging parts of the set. They can be, and there's sometimes fans in the front row who know every word, which is awesome. But for the most part, it's actually the improvisation that is the most engaging, and that's the part that people seem to be most excited about. And it's definitely something that makes our set very unique. But I'm incredibly excited to get back out there and improvise for you guys on stage. And, I've been thinking about it a little bit recently, just improvised music in general and what it means to sort of do a fully improvised hip hop show in the contemporary landscape. And sometimes it can be a little bit challenging for me internally to be so different from the norm. And, obviously I'm proud to be on my own path and to be building my own thing and to be doing it independently. And I mean, one of the biggest challenges for new artists in general is to find a way to stand out, right? And I think I've certainly found my way to stand out in the contemporary climate of hip hop and just music in general, in the sense that I am going out there with nothing prepared, and it is a very engaging live show. I'm getting words and topics from the audience in real time, and that's what's inspiring the material from the stage. And so I have that way of standing out, which is beautiful, but it can also be a little challenging in a weird way to be so different from the norm. I'm so out on my own path in a sense. Sometimes I feel like, man, do I do I fit in? You know, do I deserve to be here? You know, you start to get that imposter syndrome happening. I don't have a big hit song. I don't have a big triumphant chorus for, you know, all of these people out here in this festival field to sing along with. You know, like, man, is this? Am I faking it? And so that's kind of my own internal sort of hurdle to get over at times. But I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about live music in general, and I was realizing that before recorded music, like before the invention of the phonograph, all live shows were essentially closer to mine in the sense that, you know, a lot of the audience was showing up to be impressed right then and there, or not only to be impressed, but hopefully to be moved emotionally, right? To feel some sort of emotional resonance right then and there without necessarily needing prior context. And I'm sure even before there were records being made or the ability to record music, that people would come to know certain songs and in certain contexts expect them to be performed. But I think much more so than we have today, it was less about showing up to hear your favorite songs because there were no records, right? So I think there was a lot more, you know, showing up to hear things live for the first time. And certainly, like, if you look back at classical music, you know, like, the composer would unveil their newest symphony piece live, you know, and people would come and fill the stands to experience this thing for the first time live, which I just think is really interesting. You know, nowadays, it never really flows, or it very rarely flows in that order. Usually you are first exposed to the music through the recordings. You know, you have the single that comes out and maybe it goes to radio and people come to love the single and then they buy the album, and then there's several other songs on the album that they fall in love with, maybe the B-side to the lead single or the second single, the follow-up single. And people go to the show to hear a live rendition of those songs that they love from the recordings. But back in the classical days, if you will, and not just like, you know, European classical music either. I guess all musical performance back in that time period, new and original music was being rolled out live in front of an audience. And I don't know, that just kind of got the gears turning in my head. It's kind of interesting how things have changed over time with the advent of recorded music and the music industry that has evolved out of that. And I do, you know, as much as it sometimes makes me a little uncomfortable internally to be so off the beaten path, I can come around to actually feeling really proud of that, you know, when I think about it in this sort of broader historical context where in a kind of unique way, I'm, I guess, giving a nod back to the past when music was meant to be experienced for the first time live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nowadays, a lot of times the audience has been moved already by the music, and that's why you're a fan. You know, someone put something out that you were moved by, and now you're going with that context to get some of that to, like, you know, all right, now I'm going to be moved live. Like,
yeah,
I think that's really interesting. And beforehand, I guess it's just like, okay, the unknown and seeing it unfurl in front of you is what moves you. I mean,
100%.
It's in the same ballpark, but coming from two different places.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will say, I think it's incredibly powerful to ingest the music for the first time through the recordings and to let those recordings become the soundtrack to your life, right? And then to go experience that live and have this sort of collective experience with thousands of people all around you, everybody singing the song together, people shedding tears, and everybody sort of like collectively pulling to mind their personal associations with that music. That's obviously incredibly powerful. Amazing. So in no way do I feel like my way should, this is the future, this is what all live music will be at one point. It's not superior in any way, it's just different. And I think it's interesting to think about when that was maybe more common. And I also think a lot about jazz, you know, and obviously I come from a jazz background. You know, I have the drums behind me. I gigged as a jazz drummer for years before anybody had heard me freestyle outside of my real life community of friends and family members and fellow musicians. And you know, jazz is so unique as a genre because every jazz show is essentially new material being performed and improvised live in front of the audience. I mean, the show that we actually do, although it's a hip hop show, is in many ways very similar to a jazz gig or a live jazz performance in the sense that the audience is not coming to hear anything that's ever happened before. They are literally coming there to bear witness to the live improvisation. And if you go see 100 John Coltrane gigs. I mean, he's no longer living, rest in peace. But if you were to go see him perform 100 times, you would hear 100 different versions of the song, 100 completely different solos. And there might be themes and motifs that reemerge and things that he's working out. And, he has a vocabulary, of course. But every solo would be unique. Every solo would be different in the same way every freestyle I do is unique and every freestyle is different. So, it's just interesting to think about those kinds of things. And it does help me too when I'm sort of feeling insecure, like, man, I'm so different. Am I just this weirdo off in the corner doing his own thing? Like, what is going on here? And it's like, well, no, I'm coming from this jazz background and I'm bringing that into the hip hop space. And I actually think that's really beautiful and really cool. And it fires me up, to just be able to go out there and not have the ideas in my mind until I connect with the audience. It's almost like, for me, connecting with the audience in a very real way is a prerequisite to me being able to perform the music. So it kind of guarantees a certain level of connection with the audience in my mind.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you're going to also see it unfurl in front of you. Yes. Yeah, man, I'm excited to see what happens too.
I'm just as surprised as everybody else. And it's been amazing to see, man, just the growth of the live show and the growth of the audiences. And, we got to do some really big festivals a year or two ago out in Europe as well. And it's just been cool to see the show scale up to larger and larger stages and still connect with people, and it's a great reminder for me that improvised music has a place, and shout out to all the great improvisers doing it in the jazz world. Shout out to, my peers in the space. Shout out to Marc Rebillet. Shout out to ARIatHOME. Shout out to, all the great improvisers out there, putting that forth. It's cool to see that it can really thrive in this, contemporary musical world that we all find ourselves in.
Yeah, we crossed paths with Marc at, I think it was Boomtown.
Right.
You actually popped out on stage, and the size of that crowd, it was insane. And yours at Lowlands. We have a video up of the full Lowlands set, by the way. Yep. If you haven't peeped it, peep it, because it is, it's wild, man. That was an early set, and the tent was pushing out the back.
Dude.
Yeah, dog, your show's different, but it hits different.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that was a crazy moment for sure. Because that was like 10,000 people or more.
Yeah, I lost count.
Yeah, yeah,
it was packed, man.
Oh my God, yeah, that was a wild moment for sure. But all that said, I'm just so excited to get back out there. We're going to be in Europe this July: Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, twice in Germany, and then closing out in Norway at the Molde Jazz Festival.
Let's go.
Speaking of bringing, the jazz concept into the hip hop space, we will be directly crossing over at that festival. I'm really looking forward to it and can't wait to connect with you guys out there, man. Hopefully some of you who are fans of the pod will be out there in the audiences, man.
And speaking of jazz again,
yes,
I got a clip for you, my friend.
Let's go.
Bill Evans. I've heard you mention him plenty of times.
Yes.
Can't say I'm super hip, but I pulled up some old interviews by him.
Nice.
And dog, you guys, I've heard a lot of the same lines of thinking coming from you kind of on the improvisational side of things, and I found him to be super interesting. He's a real interesting thinker and able to speak it out into words in just such a great way for creatives to consider and masters of their crafts. Like, he's incredible. I pulled up this clip for you. I had to pick between a lot of good ones, but this is the one we settled on here. I shouldn't even say settled. It's incredible. And I'm interested in your thoughts on this.
Amazing. I'm excited to peep this. Moment of flow with.
And can you tell us a little bit who Bill Evans is?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, Bill Evans is one of the all-time great jazz improvisers, a pianist. He has quintessential classic recordings with his trio, which is Paul Motion on drums and Scott LaFaro on bass, Sunday at the Village Vanguard. There's 2 records from that run of shows that he did at the Vanguard that are just quintessential jazz classics. And, of course, he's also the pianist on Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, which is the single most famous jazz record of all time. It's kind of like the starting point for anybody looking to get into jazz is Miles Davis' Kind of Blue. What's interesting about that record is it's kind of the beginnings of Miles Davis sort of exploring this modal jazz concept, which basically means he didn't have as many chord changes in the music. It would just be like an extended, just one chord for an extended period of time, which was unusual because coming from the bebop tradition where there would be a 100 chords in a song. That's an exaggeration, but the chords would change sometimes like every half measure. So it was this rapid harmonic movement, and that's what made bebop so alive and so challenging to play. It was insanely difficult to be able to improvise over, these chords that are changing so quickly. And each chord, of course, has an associated set of notes that works with it. So to navigate that as an improviser is incredibly challenging. And then with this sort of modal concept that Miles Davis and Bill Evans and others were exploring in the 60s or late 50s on into the 60s, it was not about these rapidly fast changing chords. It was about living on the same chord for a long period of time. And what do you have to say when the harmony is not changing so fast and sort of pulling you through the song, but rather when it's just an open canvas and an open landscape, what do you have to say in that context? Can you still say something meaningful? And so that's what they were really getting into in this time. And I think Bill Evans was in Miles Davis's ear a lot during that time, and vice versa, while they were sort of exploring this new uncharted terrain.
That's cool.
Of modal jazz.
Is it almost like a flex in a way? It's like, okay, we're going to strip it down and watch what we can do with just within this space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it's challenging in its own way, especially after you've mastered this bebop vocabulary, which is so dependent on these rapidly changing chord progressions.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I related a lot to freestyle because a lot of people, well, let me just say this, staying in the jazz world, a lot of times if you're a new jazz improviser and you play a melodic instrument, so not the drums, they'll start you out playing this song called So What from Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. And this is kind of the quintessential modal jazz piece. And it just has 2 chords in the whole thing. So it's like 16 bars of D minor 7, and then the bridge goes up a half step to E flat minor 7, and 8 bars of that, and then back down to D minor 7. So it's like 24 bars in total over just 1 chord. And so when you're just learning, you'll start out on that because you don't have to navigate these complex chord changes. You can just kind of learn 2 scales, right? A scale that would fit the D minor 7 chord, and then a scale that would fit the E flat minor 7 chord. And with those 2 scales alone, you can start to improvise. So it's a lot easier to get started. And so you'll start there, and then over time you'll graduate to pieces that have faster moving chord changes. And once and that's more challenging, right? But once you master playing over complex chord progressions, it's almost like you go back full circle to trying to play on So What. And now that's really hard because now there's not like a built-in framework that's going to make what you play interesting. So it's like, how do you still remain interesting when when you have to stick to the same kind of set of notes? And you don't actually, that's an oversimplification because you can step outside that set of notes and create dissonance and tension and then go back to it. And there's a lot of different ways that you can add interest. But it's kind of this full circle thing where what used to be the easiest thing, now after learning the more complicated stuff, going back to it actually seems challenging. And I think freestyling is like that in some ways, where when I first started, I would never be able to just rap about random words that are being thrown to me. That was way too challenging. So I just had to free flow and rap about whatever came into my mind. And that was easier. I was at least able to do that. And then gradually I was like, man, I really wish I could have somebody throw me a word and rhyme about it. And it's like, oh, I can kind of do it with one word as long as it's a simple word. And then eventually it's like, wow, now I can really get in a flow state with this while they're throwing me words, And then to the point where I'm at now, where it's like, that's the main offering is people give me complicated words and I try to hold 14 of them in my brain and navigate my way through it. Now that's the norm. And now, in a similar way to what I just explained from the jazz world, coming back to where it started, what used to be the easiest is now challenging. Because when people are not throwing me words, how do I remain interesting? How do I not sound overly repetitive by just falling back on the same kind of filler phrases that I use every time? Like, there's no words, which are kind of like the chord changes of what I do, to pull me through and guarantee that there's these novel, exciting moments. So I have to create it all from scratch, if that makes sense.
It's almost like, all right, you have all the tools and all the gear, all the equipment, a team that you need to build this house. All right, you built one. All right, do it again with just a hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, really show me what you can do now. Like
Exactly.
That's cool, man.
So, yeah, wow. All right, Bill
Evans clip, man. I found this super interesting.
Moments of flow. Here we go. Let's hear from Bill Evans.
Your challenge doesn't obviously lie in that sort of technical feat, but What is your challenge in the new composition?
It's sort of a feeling, I think, a melodic feeling, or just to say a certain kind of a thing, to try to maybe show somebody something through music, even show myself something, because as I've discovered in myself, it's been a revelation to maybe reveal something to someone else through the music, something that's good and something that they feel that maybe enriches their life a little bit or makes them feel better as a person or something like that. That would be the main guiding force, I think.
Dope. Woo! We got let's hit some air horns for that. Anytime we hear this man speak, that's awesome. That's awesome. A few things stuck out to me. The first one being the interviewer kind of saying, the technique is not your challenge, at this time, because Bill Evans is obviously a very accomplished technician as a pianist. He's one of the best of all time. So it's not like he's struggling with the actual technical aspects of playing. So I find that really interesting just as a framing of like, okay, now that playing the piano well is kind of checked off, so to speak. I mean, of course, it's a lifelong pursuit, but in many senses, it's not like that's what he's up against anymore. He has more technique than many famous pianists that have come before and after him ever acquired, right? So he has that part down. And so what now is he chasing? And it's interesting how one of the first things he said is it's kind of a feeling, like it's more of a feeling. And I think about that a lot with what I do too as a freestyler, where, I train and practice for hours and hours over the course of years to develop this technique. What's the point of having all that technique? Well, once you have it and can sort of set it to the side, it opens you up to be able to feel your way through the music and to feel your way into connecting with the audience instead of trying to think your way through it or think your way into making some kind of intellectual connection. It's more of a feeling. And I resonate with that a lot. When I'm performing live on stage in particular, we'll have these topic songs where someone will suggest a concept for me to develop into a song, and I'm seeing it for the first time. And if I was trying to think my way through how to make that impactful, I would most likely get in my own way. And it feels very much to me like what I'm trying to do is just push this emotional feeling out. I'm trying to have this sort of emotional resonance with the audience. And you'll see, like when I'm performing live, if you see any of the videos of me performing, or if you make it out to a show, it's almost theatrical. When I'm on stage, I'm often moving my body so much. I'm like trying to convey this feeling and make sure that the feeling is not lost. And it almost matters less what the actual words are and more that you're feeling this with me as I navigate through this concept. So that part right straight away really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And then him also mentioning that, essentially he's trying to offer something positive to the audience and something that makes people feel better as human beings. That I think is incredible and resonates with me a ton as well. I think often about why do we do music? What is the point of doing this in the first place? And I think music is a form of communication. So we do it to express ourselves, and we do art in general, I think, I almost feel like we create art to reach out to people and say, like, do you feel this too? Like, am I alone in this? Am I alone inside my own experience? Or are there other people out there having a similar experience that might be able to relate? It's almost like we're reaching our hand out to ask if we're alone or if we're connected as humans. And I believe that we are connected, and we find that we are connected, and we find that we have this shared experience when we talk to other people and when we experience art together with other people. And so I think if I'm going to create music and create art and reach out to people, then what better offering to give than to try to make people feel better as human beings, or to try to make us feel better collectively, and to try to offer something positive. So I love that he shared that. And it's, I think it comes through his music when I listen to it. It has certainly impacted me in a positive way. So he's accomplishing that mission for myself and for millions of other people, I'm sure.
It's a really interesting
Awesome.
thought. It's a kind of a vulnerable thought in a way. Like,
Yeah.
we might all kind of understand that, I hope everyone has a good time at my show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's kind of like peeling it back a little bit more, where he talks about his guiding force
Yeah.
is for the music to veil something, to reveal something that like basically everyone feels better, and enriched after coming to this, epiphany. It's a little heavy of a word, but and I kind of find that to be the same. I'm happy that you made those connections because that's kind of where I was thinking too. It's like your Gorilla Bars series, let's say, like that is you going out there sharing your music and revealing some really positive and uplifting moments through your improvised music with strangers out there.
Yeah.
They go home with a really cool thing that everyone shared.
Yeah.
For the most part. And that's where I was kind of connecting this as well. I found it really, really cool for him to kind of lay out that way.
Absolutely, man. And I agree. I mean, I always think back to like one of the first, the first Gorilla Bars episode before you were filming them, actually. And my friend Alex was filming back then, and we went out there, and I hadn't gone out and done that kind of content in a long time. I had taken a break from YouTube to work on my EP Contents Under Pressure, and then I was coming back to YouTube after going through a lot of ups and downs in my personal life and in my career. And I was like, it's time to get back out there and do this. And we got out there, felt a little rusty, but we did the thing and we had a great time. And I just remember at the end of it when we were packing down, he was like, damn, man, that was sick. We made so many people smile today. And it's so simple, but it's also so deep and it's so real. Mm-hmm. And what else is there? Maybe that's the most powerful thing we can do. And so I think it's beautiful. And like you said, he mentions it's his guiding force. I also love that he said he's often having a revelation himself, like through the creative process, through improvising in front of an audience, things are being revealed to him that he may or may not have been aware of himself. And it's that whole thing of sort of being a channel, right? And he's not thinking and forcing every note out and saying, this is exactly how it's going to be. This is exactly how I feel. This is exactly what I want you to take from this. It's more so he's opening up and entering that flow state, and getting out of the way. It's like, get the mind out of the way, almost get the body out of the way if you can, and just let it do what it does, and see what unfolds. I thought that was a really beautiful way that he put that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess it's like improvisational music making, like you are constantly, there's like a phrase just going through life even, you don't grow until you kind of go into the unknown a little bit. Like if you're doing the same thing every day, not taking any risk, you'll know that experience is going to be one thing, but you might not, grow into all these different avenues as a person. But like literally every time that you decide maybe not to use, you were talking on a past episode, like some of your more repeated phrases like anvil or something. And right at the last second, you force yourself to go left. Now you're entering a whole new space where you might learn something about yourself a little bit. Man, it directly, it's a direct parallel to a lot of what you do. Yeah,
100%, man. And a lot of artists talk about, like a lot of artists, let's say rappers who write, will talk about having that experience during the writing process. Where like, man, I don't know where the words came from, right? It's just like came through me. And it's this really euphoric feeling when that happens. That is flow state, right? It's like I just, like the pen was just moving, like the lyrics just emerged, and they have that feeling in the studio. I think what's cool about improvising on stage in front of an audience is I'm often having that experience live, which is not to say that performing pre-written material, you can't also achieve a really deep flow state where you feel that euphoria and you feel like you're out of your body. Of course you can, and that often happens with all of the greats. But it's unique, I think, as an improviser in the sense that it's like you're having these sort of epiphanies. You're like, wow, okay, I guess that's what it is. You know? Wow, okay, where did that come from? And you're sort of bearing witness to it. I'm bearing witness to it at the same time as the audience.
Just inherently vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like we see you up there and we know, you've just laid it all out without any like escape doors really. And it's crazy. I think it's really dope.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, jazz and freestyle. There's a lot of connections. Works out for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like a jazz musician in so many ways. Like the gigs that I do feel very similar to how I used to feel pulling up to a jazz gig and setting up my drums. It's like I don't know what's going to happen on the bandstand. I know sort of the framework, but I'm excited for tonight. I'm as excited as the audience because I get to see it unfold in real time and be a part of it. And that's how I feel when I do these gigs as a freestyler. So
man, you hate a set list, huh? You were you were a gigging jazz drummer, and then you went into rap, and man.
I was just like, dude, it's ADHD, man. I can't just like lock it in. I can't lock it in. Like, it's got to be exciting to me, and I need high stakes. I've talked about that before. It's like if the stakes aren't high enough, I'm not going to be able to focus. So it is what it is. I'm glad we were able to make that work. But great find, man. Shout out to Bill Evans. Like you said, there's probably a gold mine of clips from him that would work for.
Yeah,
for
we might see another one from him. Another episode down the road for sure.
Absolutely. But we're going to continue on here with a segment that we introduced last week, Meet the Team. Woo! So we're hearing from members of Team Mack, people who are working behind the scenes, people who you otherwise might not know about, who are doing a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of incredible work to keep everything moving over here and to keep things flowing, and who are adding on creatively as well. You might not know who's doing the animations on my Omegle Bars series, for example. That is this next person that we're going to hear from. She's a wonderful human being. She's been on the team for many years now, editing videos, doing animations, doing graphic design, doing a little bit of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
She's a multifaceted, multi-talented person, and somebody with just a really incredible personality, and somebody I've just been happy to get to know over the years. So this is a question coming in from Sarah.
Woo. Hey guys, I'm Sarah. I'm one of the video editors on Team Mack. I also have the privilege of being able to do some of his visual effects, and I also do the Omegle Bar animations, which is super fun to be able to bring some of the things Harry raps about to life in that way. But today I have a question for you, Harry, that has nothing to do with video editing or animation. So I hope you're ready to get a little bit more vulnerable, perhaps. My question's a two-parter. The first part is, have you ever been rapping for someone and you said something that surprised yourself, whether it's something you didn't know you felt or didn't know you thought, and you ended up learning something about yourself along the way? Or the other side of that, where you said something that you didn't actually mean, and kind of after you said it, you're like, where did that come from? Or why did I say that? I'm curious about that as well. And then the second part, you talk a lot about your morning pages and your meditation and journaling practices. And I was wondering if there are ever moments when you're rapping where it almost feels like a form of talk therapy or audio journaling in some way to you. And if not, do you think you would ever want to be able to cultivate that so that you kind of get that benefit from it as well? Or would you like to keep those two things separate? All right, that's all I got. Peace, guys.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. Awesome questions. Appreciate that. And awesome environment to record the question in. Wow, that looks like an epic walk. Great questions. Yes. So, okay, let me go back through them. So first part was, have I ever surprised the first part, this was great. This tied in so nicely with what we were just discussing from the Bill Evans thing. If I ever basically have revelations about myself while I'm freestyling for others, where I learn things about myself in the moment. And I would say absolutely that happens all the time. One example I would say is the videos that I do with UC Health. We've been talking about those on the pod a lot recently, it seems, but in this case, they really apply. In those cases, and for those who don't know, I've been doing a long-standing collaboration with UC Health, where I get to meet some of the patients in the UC Health system, usually people who have gone through unimaginably challenging health issues, people who have had brushes with death, people who are currently battling terminal diseases, people who have lost limbs, so on and so forth. So it's very emotionally hard-hitting content that they're sharing with me. And so in those instances, I remember when we first started, I was a little scared because when people are sharing such emotionally hard-hitting things with me, it's like you almost have that thought in your mind of oh my God, wow, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say, right? You kind of have that thought of wow, that's awful. I don't know what to say. And so in conversation, it's almost like I wouldn't even necessarily know how to show up. And of course, you always eventually say, oh, I'm so sorry, let me know if there's anything I can do. But sometimes it's hard to find words that feel appropriate beyond that, right? When people are coming to you and sharing such heavy things. And so with the UC Health collaboration, that's one thing that's really interesting is people are sharing these heavy things with me that they've been through. And I have that feeling of like, God, how terrible, I'm so sorry. And then the beat drops and it's like, wow, I'm actually, my job is to elaborate on this. My job is to give voice to this and to bring my own thoughts and feelings to this, and to pay tribute to this person, who has gone through so much. And it's one of those instances where, again, I don't know what to say in my head. Intellectually, I don't know what to say. But when the beat drops, I can start moving my body and I can start to, yo, come on, and start to move my mouth and start to get the gears turning for this freestyle thing that I've trained. And I can get my brain out of the way and stop trying to think my way through it and start just feeling my way through it. And lo and behold, as surprising to me as to anybody else in the room, these words start coming out. And it's words that pertain to the story that the person just told. And it's also emotional content from me that I wouldn't have been able to put words to in a conversational setting. But somehow through the act of actually freestyling, I'm able to access these words that are in me somewhere, in my heart. And so I think that's one example of where there's sort of these revelations happening to me in real time, where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, these are the words. This is what I want to say to somebody who has just shared something really heavy and really emotional and really deep and meaningful with me. So that's always a really beautiful experience for me, a really emotional experience as well. And I think in other cases, it happens like if somebody suggests a topic that is kind of maybe a difficult topic to discuss because it's like politically charged or like, a social issue that is hotly debated, or something like that. I remember one time, Odyssey Tour, the LA show, downtown LA, one of the suggestions was homelessness. And it was like during the narrative song. And it was the dilemma was homelessness or something surrounding that issue. And it's such a complicated issue. And I don't feel qualified to talk in depth about it, right? I mean, I'm a freestyle rapper, I obviously care a lot, and I want to help, but I don't have all the stats. I don't have the data. I wouldn't feel qualified to speak on that. So at first in my head, I'm like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to say anything that has any semblance of value in this moment? And then again, it's like the beat drops and it's like, well, I guess I just need to let go, because I don't think gripping tighter and trying to think my way through it is going to bring me anything useful. So I'll just let go. And then it's like I start the song and I'm like getting into it. And then again, lo and behold, at the end, the beat stops and there's this extended a cappella where I'm just sort of pouring out these words that I'm feeling more than thinking about the issue of homelessness. And it's not stats and it's not figures and it's not solutions. It actually mostly centers around me acknowledging that I do not have the answers, right? And that it's an incredibly complex issue. And, that I feel like for me as an individual, the most important first step is to cultivate as much empathy as possible. And also that empathy alone is not going to fix anything. And, then there's this emotional content of me almost feeling frustrated by these issues that are seemingly impossible to solve, but that cause so much pain for so many people in the world. And all this stuff, where it's like, wow, there it is. I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever. I don't know what it is, but that's my stuff. Those are my words about that issue,
It's authentic.
Take it or leave. It's authentic. Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is. And it's surprising to me. It's a revelation to me. It's almost like I wouldn't have been able to get it out while I was journaling. It's like I had to drop the beat so I could let go, so I could move my body, so I could feel that flow, so that I could just hear it come out just like everybody else and be like, well, that's what I have to say on that today.
You probably are putting into words a lot of feelings that a lot of people kind of have about it. But like you were saying, speaking on it and getting that out there is so difficult. But you're like, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, I'm mad at that. There's no way to solution. There's no solution that I'm seeing. I'm sure there's a lot of people in there that were just kind of nodding along like, yeah. Like you know?
Right. And it's true. That's why it's so powerful to do it live too, like in front of an audience, because you'll hear like, woo, or like you'll hear like people like basically
reaffirming
that they have felt something similar. And it's like, whoa, like it's really powerful, you know, it's very emotionally powerful when that happens. And I think I'm feeling the audience too, you know, in some way. I don't know the science behind that, but somehow I'm feeling what the people are feeling. And I mean, that's what live music does at its best, right? Is it creates this collective feeling. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing when it happens. And I would say to the other side of the coin, have I ever said something I don't believe in or agree with and be like, whoa, like what the hell? I mean, yeah, when I was younger, that would happen a lot, you know, because it actually takes a lot of work to develop the technique and facility as an improviser to be able to control what it is that you're saying and not just be at the whim of like following the rhyming words. You know, in the beginning, you're kind of just following the rhyming words wherever they take you, for better or worse. So sometimes you're like, damn, I don't know about that, but it did rhyme, but like, holy shit, like that was crazy. So you end up saying all kinds of wild shit, like when you're just and I was younger and I was less mature. And so we would just go into uncharted territory, you know, triple X rated, you know, a bunch of high schoolers, just like whatever, like, and so on and so forth. Or just like aggressive like energy, you know, like, oh, like, you know, like whatever, like getting that out. And it's like, whoa. What was that? But, you know, it's a part of us. We all have a shadow, right? So in some ways, I feel like freestyling with your boys when you're young is a way of expressing that shadow side too and getting some of that aggression out. The drums is like that too. So it's probably healthy to a degree. But yeah, it took a long time before I could kind of control the narrative and be like, okay, look, this is what I this is what I want to put out into the world and let that lead, and then let me find the rhyming words that are going to support that in real time. But that, you know, you got to have a lot of experience and practice before you can do that.
Yeah, there's no way I'm actually sharing my point of view if I'm trying to freestyle. Like, I will take whatever rhymes I can get. Exactly. I'm not telling you much about me, man.
Exactly. But that's where it starts. You know, that's where it starts for everybody. I think.
Sure.
So. And then the last part too of your question I really enjoyed as well of, you know, yes, I have this journaling practice, but is freestyling ever sort of like a out loud journal? I can't remember the way that you put it. I really enjoyed talk therapy. Yeah, talk therapy. The answer to that is yes as well. And often at the live show, here again, you know, later in the set, we do this topic song, and oftentimes, you know, Khan is there pulling in all the words from the QR code, you know, and throwing out any troll words. No, we don't usually have troll words, but sort of curating the list to make sure it's going to be unique and different, so I'm not always rapping about the same words, and so that I have colorful, challenging words to use each night. And for this topic song late in the set, he'll often try to identify a topic that feels potent for me to dig really deep and have this sort of strong moment of emotional resonance. Not every time. Sometimes we lean into something humorous or go a different way with it, but often it will be this sort of emotionally resonant thing where at least it has the potential to be that. Depending on where I want to go with it. And so during that song, it will often, because I'm telling my story through the topic, I'm always telling my story through the words and through the topics, right? So often this particular song will pertain in some sense to my personal challenges to show up as an artist, you know, the overcoming of my own fear and self-doubt. You know, I'm somebody that tends towards low self-esteem. You know, I've dealt with different versions of anxiety in my life. I've dealt with addiction in my life. I've talked about that a lot. You know, it took a lot for me to let go of some of these addictive behaviors that I had that were holding me back. And moreover, it was just the greatest challenge of my life and remains to be the greatest challenge of my life to push forward in spite of fear. And so just to be on stage is not easy, you know, and it's something that I've had to work really hard to get to. And so often this sort of material will bubble up during this song later in the set. And again, it'll be the type of thing where the beat ends and I'm like, I got more to say, and I jump back in and there's this extended acapella. And I would say that extended acapella in particular is a form of talk therapy for me, because again, I think that music, like the Bill Evans thing, is meant to enrich people's lives and make them feel better about themselves. So I am not the type of artist that just goes dark and stays dark, although I do think that that can be beautiful and that there is a place for that. But to me, for my offering creatively, I want it to always be hopeful. I said hopeful, but it kind of sounded like I said helpful, but I actually want it to be both, but hopeful. And so yes, I'm acknowledging these challenges that I went through, and then it's usually culminating towards some version of like, I'm here on this stage now. I'm here in front of this audience. There was a time where I could not have imagined this, and now look, we're here, and we're all experiencing this together, and this is testament to the fact that you can push through and you can overcome. And this segment of the show is like insanely cathartic for me, and always feels like a form of talk therapy where afterwards it always feels like there's sort of this weight off my shoulders, and to get to feel the audience's energy again build, and to get that sort of affirmation from the audience is like such an amazing thing for me personally, and really it's really emotional when I think about it, man. It's just like I never take it for granted. I feel so seen and heard in that moment.
You are, man. That's like, it goes back to the Bill Evans quote once again, in the way that you're kind of revealing something and sharing it with the audience, because during that acapella often, if you really look out, there's not a lot of movement in the crowd. There's not a lot of noise.
Yeah.
You just took us on a 3.5 minute journey throughout the song, and you're kind of getting that uplifting part, and everyone's just locked in with you, like sharing that, that feeling of hope, I guess.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
Hell yeah. I love it. Awesome question, Sarah. Thank you so much. The animations on the Omegle videos get so much love in the comments, and people are like, damn, editor needs a raise. This is the editor.
She crushes it.
Yeah, she crushes it every
just
time.
dropped one today. It's a video of you, us rapping in the car. Well, us in the car, you rapping.
Right.
She had a great one of a dinosaur like running past the car.
Yeah, it's insane.
Fire.
Yeah, that Brontosaurus was hidden. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's such a joy having you on the team.
Yeah.
And great questions as well. So we're going to get into some questions from you all, questions from the fans. If you want to pose a question to me on the podcast, harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. That's where you need to go. Shout out to everybody sending in the questions. As we mentioned earlier, we would love some videos, and we have some videos today. We also have some audio today, and we also have some text. Okay, text is fine.
That's great.
But it's all great. It's all great. Just keep coming with those questions, and I'll keep answering them. But we're gonna get into some of these right here and now, starting with Rich R. Let's go. RR, real rap, baby. Rich R in the place to be. What other kinds of art inspires you? Fantastic question. I really love, I don't know if I've talked about this very much. I love art books, coffee table books, basically grown-up picture books. I love them. And if you ever want to, this is going to be so weird. I was about to say, if you ever want to give me a gift, that would be the gift to give me. But don't, it's fine. Your presence is a present. Thanks for being here. This is the gift, the fact that you're watching this. No, everybody who I know in real life, who like my family members and friends who would get me a birthday present or a Christmas present, they know that I love art books and coffee table books. Yeah, it's a good gift in general, and I always love receiving it, so never feel like it's too generic for me. I don't know. I love the fact that you can just bust one open to any random page. You can engage with the text if you want, or you can ignore it and just engage with the imagery, and you can just flip through it for however long you want, and it's like this momentary entrance into like a new universe, but from your home. It's like walking through a museum, but in your home. And for me, it really kind of like helps me elevate beyond the mundane of the day-to-day. And I don't do it enough. I have so many dope ones around the house. I have some stacked up behind me. I have other ones up in the living room. I try to have them all over. In a weird way, it inspires me just to have them around. Like, I have some that I've never opened, as crazy as that sounds. And I'm just like, but they still enrich my life. Like, I'm so happy that I have them. And at some point, I'll open them. But I love that. And that is a form of art. Many of them are, like I said, art books. So many of them will be like the works of Van Gogh or something like that.
Do you have a favorite?
That's a good question. I have the Book of Hove, which is a Jay-Z one based on an exhibit that he did in New York City, actually. Nice. That one's really fire, and there's a bunch of old like Jay-Z memorabilia in it. What are the other ones I like? Contact High is behind me, which is based on another hip-hop exhibit that happened, which is basically the contact sheets from, the old photo shoots of classic hip-hop album covers and flyers and promotional materials and things like that.
Oh, that sounds sick.
It's really sick. I'll show you after the pod.
Yeah.
You should definitely check it out. But it's like,
Cool.
you'll see the sort of like the red marker, like the circlings of like the top contenders. So usually like, it'll be like the picture of Biggie that was on the cover is circled. And then there's like arrows and notes to other like possible ones.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like the Biggie contact sheet in particular, it's like everybody knows the picture of him. It's like one of the most famous pictures of him. And he's like looking serious, mean mugging, looking hard. And then there's a couple pictures where like somebody said something to make him laugh and he's just grinning super big like a little kid. And you rarely saw him making that face. You know, like in the materials they shared with the world for his brand, it was always kind of hard. And so it's cool to see this almost like vulnerable moment of like him really laughing at something hella funny.
The contact sheets of like a really recognizable album cover, to see that, it's almost like seeing the world into like an ultimate, like a alternate universe, you know, like
exactly
reality could have gone that way. That could have been the album cover.
Exactly.
That's interesting. That's awesome.
100%. Yeah. So that's a sick one. But honestly, I just like I'm so fascinated by the way they feel, the cover, or like the weight of the paper that's used, and like all the different sort of like textures and different cool creative things you can do with a art book.
It's kind of a dying art, like printing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. And I feel like the coffee table book is like where it's kept alive. Like that's where people are still doing really creative shit, where you'll have like a clear page that folds out or something. You know, it's like the book in and of itself is a creative offering, regardless of the content of the book, if that makes sense. And I love like checking out the typefaces and the different fonts that are used and the different layouts. And I don't know, that to me is just like really inspiring. And then the other art that inspires me a lot that I've talked about a bit is magic. And to me, magic is absolutely an art form. And I just love watching great magicians and getting my mind blown. And of course, magic is amazing because it temporarily breaks our understanding of reality. And even if you know there's a trick involved, and there's always a trick involved, well, in my belief, I don't know, controversial. My opinion is there's always a trick involved. I don't actually ever believe that the person in front of me is like supernatural in some way. But still, it pings that part of the imagination where it's like, you thought you understood how the universe worked, and now this illusion is being done right in front of your face that makes you kind of wonder, like, wait, what the hell? Maybe I don't actually understand anything at all. And that's actually true. And so I basically don't understand anything at all. And the magic is just like my reminder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know how any of this works.
Yeah. It's just a really fun way of humbling myself and reminding myself that I don't know shit. But I think it's awesome. And there are so many parallels between like the live art of magic and the live art of freestyle. Yeah, I just think like the showmanship of it. And, you know, in many ways, freestyle rap also has a similar impact on people. I think that's why it crosses over and connects with so many different audiences. Like when we're out there in the world doing guerrilla bars, we talked about on the last episode how I'm pulling all different types of people together and binding us all together for this one moment where we can share in this amazing, positive, hopefully uplifting energy of the freestyle. Why does it cross over to all those people? I think similar to magic, it just has this really exciting and inspiring and delightful break to what you thought you understood about the universe, because we assume that to have a set of lyrics that rhyme and sound good and have a emotional resonance to them, that somebody took time to think about them and revise them and tweak them and edit them and make sure that they're perfect. And yet here's this person just spitting out these lyrics right in front of you that hit those requirements, but they're based on random stimuli and random input that was just given to them or that they're just seeing with their eyes. And so it's like, how is that possible? It's impossible. The first time I saw Wayne Brady, I was like, that's impossible. You know, the first time I heard Super Nat, that's impossible. And so it has that magical effect. And in that way, I think it kind of is magic. It's a form of magic.
You could take David Blaine's like infamous street magic video, go into After Effects, put you in there, or vice versa, you know, and kind of when the trick happens, the group has, you know, it looks the same.
100%. So I love that. And I think another similarity too between magic and, now this is just about magic. Thank you, Rich R. Another similarity too is the kind of like juggling of different techniques and different methods to sort of create this even bigger illusion. Like if you always knew that the magician was just like hiding a card in their hand in some unique way, it would quickly lose its magic in a sense, I think, even if they were doing it really well. But it's the fact that like sometimes they're doing that and other times they're doing something else. And there's so many different techniques that are happening, and the line between when one technique ends and another technique is used is always blurred and shaded. And that's kind of, in a way, what I'm doing when I'm freestyling. It's like at first I'm doing this very clear setup punchline based on visual. And if I stayed there for too long, you'd be like, okay, I get it. Like you might still be impressed by it, but you'd be like, okay, I basically understand how this works, all of it, you know? But then it's like, but before you can, right when you're maybe about to have that thought, then I go into this triplet double time rapid fire thing that's not based on that at all. It's just based on this rhythmic concept that I'm taking from my jazz drumming. It's like, whoa, okay, well, I can explain that first part, but I can't necessarily explain this part. And then once that starts to wear off, then it's like, well, let me just go from the heart. Let me just speak something emotional that matters to me. And that will be, and so all these different techniques are kind of like flowing in and out of each other. And there's no clear delineation when one starts and the other ends. Even for me, a lot of the times I'm just sort of like fluidly moving through them. And I feel like that's what magicians are doing as well.
For sure. It's like if they do that sleight of hand like 3 times and you're like, okay, I get that. I know what to look for. But then they do something similar in a different technique, it crumbles like how you thought you had it. But if they keep just kind of cycling through that, you're like, okay, well, I can't explain anything.
Exactly. You're like, never mind. I don't even think the first one was what I thought it was. It just is magic. But those are 2 that come to mind for me. I'm inspired by all kinds of art. I listen to other genres of music, of course. And you know, I'm inspired by a lot of. I like just going to museums and stuff. I'm not an art aficionado, so I don't know a lot about art history or the greats. You know, I know just enough to scheme on Van Gogh and Monet and Picasso and that kind of thing. But I'm inspired by art in general, and I'm inspired walking through the streets and seeing graffiti and seeing like discarded magazines with interesting fonts on them, and like in New York City, like this sort of like tapestry of it's like a collage of different fonts and colors that don't match, you know, on the same block, and it's like ever inspiring to me. So
love it.
Great question from Rich R. Appreciate it. Here we go. We got a video. Let's get it. Dustin B.
Yo, what's good, Harry? What's good, Sam? I had a question for you guys today. I was hoping you could give me some insight. So I just had a kid at the end of 2024 in November, and I just been so focused on being a good dad and learning all the new stuff that I've been having trouble finding inspiration to write and start working on a new project. So my question is, when you're feeling that lack of inspiration, what is something that you do to kind of get it fueled back up again? I was just curious. Any insight would be very much appreciated, and y'all keep killing it. Much love.
Hey, that's dope. Shout out to Dustin B. Thank you so much for the question. Looks like you're at work, so, you know, thanks for taking a little break to holler at us. And congrats on the kid. That's awesome. I also just had a kid, so I completely relate to what you're saying. There's so much to learn. It's such a steep learning curve, and you're learning on the job. And yeah, I mean, it's enough to only focus yourself on that. And I see you're working too, so you know your time's already split. First thing I would say, you know, is go easy on yourself. You know, don't be hard on yourself in this time. It sounds like your priorities are in the right place. You're really focused on being a good dad and learning everything you need to. I totally understand that you still want to continue in your creative pursuits, and you're looking to get back to that at this point, and that's beautiful, and you will be able to. But you're not doing anything wrong. You know, don't beat yourself up for being less inspired creatively during this particular season of your life, because, you know, we flow through different seasons in life. And the last thing you want to do is go into that, you know, feedback loop from hell that Mark Manson talks about in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a cool book to check out if you haven't read it. But he talks about this feedback loop from hell where, you know, back in the day, it was enough to just be upset, to just be having a bad day. Like, I woke up with the sniffles. I'm having a bad day. And that was it, you know? Now it's like, damn, I woke up and I have the sniffles. I'm having a bad day. Wait, why am I in a bad mood? What does that say about me? Oh my God, maybe it's because of my relationship with my mom, you know, and so on and so forth. We get upset about being upset, about being upset, about being upset, and on and on and on, right? And so you don't want to get stuck in that space. It's okay to be a little bummed out because you're less inspired, but then don't beat yourself out for being that way, because it's inevitable. You know, we can't stay inspired 100% of the time. So that would be my first piece of advice. Easier said than done, but something to think about and chew on. And in terms of how to get back to it, a big thing for me is always coming back around to making it feel like play as much as possible. Not like work, but like play. And so for me, it's like, how can I make this feel less like, okay, I have to record a video right now that is of a quality that would be acceptable for our flagship offering on my YouTube channel with the however many subscribers, and hopefully it can be at least in the top 5 of the last 10 videos. No, like, how do I make it not feel like that at all, and instead feel like, oh, hell yeah, after school today, I'm in 6th grade, and after school today, I'm going over to Brady's house. We're going straight up to the attic. Me and all the homies, we're about to put on records and freestyle. It's going to be so fucking fun. How do I get back to that? So I don't know how that works for you in what you're working on. I think you said you wanted to work on a music project, so maybe you write songs. How can you make it fun, man? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. For me, a lot of times it's like, before I record anything, just put beats on, no headphones, no mic, just pace around in the basement, bump some dope beats from other artists, beats that I couldn't even use in my content if I wanted to because they get copyright, but some of my favorites, and just rap about whatever I want to rap about, and just do it for the love and just experiment with crazy rhythms and go all over the place, or, have a cypher with Sam and Khan and the homies, and make it less about me and more about collaboration. So whatever that looks like for you, I would say focus on trying to make it feel like play again. Don't worry so much about the end result. And that can kind of be a nice way to sneak back into being inspired to actually create things that are intended to be shared with other people, if that is what you want to do. And then the last thing I would say is, go on an artist date. Take yourself on an artist date. This is something that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist Way, which is the book that taught me about the morning pages. And it's actually, I have really dedicated myself to the morning pages for a long time. Since having my daughter, actually, I've been much less consistent. So that's something I want to get back to when I can, hopefully soon. But in reality, the morning pages go hand in hand with artist dates. And it's those two things that Julia Cameron says, if you only take 2 things from this book, let it be morning pages every morning and an artist date once a week. And an artist date is essentially where you get in touch with your inner artist, right? Your inner artist is like your inner child. There's this artist inside of you that has certain needs and desires that are unique to the artist inside you. And so ask your artist, what do you feel like doing? And your artist might say, I want to go walk through a museum and look at the art, or your artist might say, I want to go to the dingiest dive bar in town and sit in the back corner for 2 hours and watch people. Or I want to go on a hike with a beautiful view. Or I want to go on a long drive. Or I don't know, it could be anything, literally anything. But the idea is not to do something that you think is meant to be artistically inspiring necessarily, if that's not what the true desire is. But take yourself out, just solo, you and your artist, as it were. And, this is a great way to get some inspiration. It's kind of like I was talking about earlier, just going on a walk through New York. And when I see all this, like all these different fonts and colors and everything happening and all these different people passing by, and I'm smelling all these different smells, that can be really, really inspiring and make me feel fired up to want to create something. So that would be my take on it.
Hell yeah. And it's kind of like what you were talking about last episode with the war of art.
Yeah.
Like if he's trying to, maybe let's say write lyrics or something, like maybe like sit down even if you don't feel like that inspiration's there, and you know what, like write something bad. And like, get that out, see where that leads you. Like,
it's true, man. Like everything I just said, Stephen Pressfield, War of Art, would be like, nah, man, you don't need any of that shit. Just sit down and do the work. Like that's his whole thing. And to be honest, man, there's a lot of truth to that. Like you can't necessarily control when you're inspired, but you can control your time in a sense. And you have obvious obstacles there with the new kid and everything and right. Your job and stuff. But man, if you can pick a time, even if it's only 20 minutes a day, if you can wake up 20 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier, or even an hour earlier, and just say, hey, this is when I'm going to sit my ass down at this desk, same place every day, materials right in front of me. I got my notebook, I got my pen, or I got my mic, I got my interface, whatever your tools are, I have my canvas, I have my paintbrushes, so on and so forth, and just say, I'm just going to sit here no matter what. And I'm going to do something, even if it's bad, even if it's uninspired. So that's, again, that's a whole nother approach. You don't even need the artist dates if you're going war of art hardcore, like if you're going pro, right?
I just saw an interview with a writer, I think on Rick and Morty, but he was like doing a panel and they asked him about writer's block and how he overcomes that. And his answer was something along the lines of basically that, like, okay, well then sit down and try to write something bad. If you think you don't have any inspiration, you have writer's block, try to write something bad, and you'll be surprised how difficult it is to actually you're going to get something good out of it if you keep doing that. He's like, it's more difficult than you think to write poorly. He's like, he might not have that inspiration, but it if you push through it, he's like, something always shows itself.
Yeah. Eventually the muse is going to show up and give you something great, but you got to be there. And that's the whole Stephen Pressfield thing is because he talks about the muse, right? Which is like his vision of, this woman that from the heavens above, I guess, that comes and delivers this great work. Yeah. And it's not even him, right? And he's like, man, the muse rewards consistency. If I show up at the same desk at the same time every day for a month, it might be a month of grueling, horrible work where there's nothing usable from it. But the muse is going to look at that and say, okay, all right, you're showing up at 8 tomorrow, I'll be there too. Eventually something good is going to show up. That's I love it. Shout out to Dustin B.
Yeah.
Let's take maybe one more here.
Cool.
And we got some audio flavors. Let's get it. This is from Darren Walsh.
Hi, Harry. Love the podcast. I found you after people kept commenting the Harry Mack of puns on my videos. As a one-liner comedian, I feel like freestyle rapping and pun improvisation share the same core skill, free association. So my question to you is this. Have you ever tried doing puns or one-liners? Feels like the setup punchline method could work well both ways. Cheers, Darren Walsh. P.S. I've never tried rapping.
Boom, sound effects for that. Yo, okay, so I actually know this guy. This dude is amazing. This guy is brilliant. I commented on one of his videos on Instagram or something years ago, I think, at least a couple years ago, because I immediately resonated with what he was doing. But he's brilliant. He does basically, it is like the Harry Mack of puns. He stands out there on the street and he asks people like, yo, do you like puns? Do you like puns?
Gorilla puns.
Yeah, gorilla puns, exactly. And then if somebody says yes, he's like, do you want to hear one right now? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, just give me a subject. And you'll say a subject like animals or basketball or whatever it is. And he will just quickly flip a pun right there in front of you in a matter of seconds. And they are so good and he's so consistent. It's really, really impressive and really entertaining. So definitely check out Darren Walsh. And I think Darren Walsh Puns is the name of his channel, but we'll have it in the show notes as well so you can support this guy. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for submitting a question and thanks for your art as well. I'm a huge fan. What even was the question? Now I'm forgetting. Oh, have I ever tried doing puns or one-liners? Well, it's funny because I do a lot of puns and one-liners within my freestyles. I incorporate puns. A lot of my word flips, homophone flips, where you're taking a homophone is a word that the same exact sound means multiple things, like bank. You have a river bank, or you take your money to the bank, or you have a bank shot in basketball, etc. And so a lot of the best bars are just kind of using that word as a hinge point and sort of mashing up the two disparate meanings together in unique ways. And you point out free association, which, yes, that's such a huge piece of the entire skill set of freestyling at essentially every level. You're free associating in rhyme. There's a lot of words that rhyme with every word, and so often you're just kind of pulling in the first ones that you can think of. You're free associating the subject matter, because if you're rapping about the word tree, then you're going to roots and branches and leaves and so on and so forth. And yes, some of the best bars are born from free associating away from a subject word and then finding some kind of homophone or some kind of saying that exists in the English language that pertains in some way to the word and using that to come up with something clever. I incorporate it, but the consistency with which you deliver in a matter of seconds on any subject is beyond impressive to me. And I'm in awe of that. I'm in awe of your skill set because, see, I have the luxury of not coming up with a pun or one-liner or a clever thing for quite a long time because, see, for me as a freestyler, just to rhyme in rhythm is already impressive. So I could just do that for a long time, there's a lot of other things that I can do, and then occasionally I'll come up with a clever pun or a clever word flip or a clever one-liner, and I'll inject that in, and that'll be a big moment. But I don't have to do it every time, all the time, like I see you do. I would love to actually pick your brain at some point, man. We got to connect at some point because I would love to ask, if you ever bomb or if you ever can't think of one, or if you've ever like taken just a little too long to try to think of it and people just like it gets awkward or people walk on by. I'm curious what your version of that is, because of course we have our version of that when we're out in the field. But you seem like a seasoned pro. I imagine you always come through with something, and from what I've seen, man, it's all just so great. So wow, you should try freestyling. I would. Yeah, you said, P.S. You've never tried freestyle. You should, man. If you would be an amazing freestyler. Like if you just got the other skills down, the rhyming and the rhythm and whatever other parts. I don't know if you're a musician at all, but dude, you would kill, because you would just have those clever bars, just boom, 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 one after the other every time.
He's got to just like hide like off to the side by a tree and just like feed you puns. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but you're dropping puns. I mean, when we're on like tours, like walking around and stuff, I mean, we kind of can't stop sometimes.
That's true, actually. Yeah, so I guess we do this. We do our own version of this. We'll just
like think it out. Like we're just in Vegas, like at the Sphere, and I just remember like that one was going hard, just like sphere me out, like like sphere we go again, like just getting in as many as you can.
The atmosphere, sphere. No, it's
puns are the best.
We do puns and other word plays of all kinds on tour, especially with Con around, like and Mikey and Jazz. Everybody starts chiming in, and then we're just like, eventually we start like, everybody has a different like threshold of tolerance for like this like game. Like eventually people start being like, okay, like stop, it's enough with the puns. People start getting pissed off. Eventually I start pissing myself off. I'm like, God, I can't stop.
Said an actual thing of substance in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a muscle, like so it is like a thing you can exercise. And it's also, for me, it's kind of like a thing of, it's like a floodgate that you open. Like once you really go in there and you're really thinking in pun, then you start to see them everywhere.
For sure.
They start to emerge to you. And so I'm curious, Mr. Darren
do you get
Walsh.
Stuck in puns?
Yeah, do you get stuck in pun? And do you also feel that way about it? Like, is it kind of like a thing where you wake up in the morning and maybe you have like a hour or two of peace and calm, and then you're like, okay, let's do it. Let's enter the world of pun. And then like, that's all you can think about. I'd be curious about those things.
Yeah.
If you watch this, man, comment, let me know, or reach out. But hats off to you, and everybody go check this man out.
For sure.
He's awesome. He's awesome. All right, cool. I think that'll do it for questions this time around. But let's take a look at
got a fan free.
The Fam Freeze. Let's get it. Shout out to all the rappers out there, freestylers, MCs, people who have been sending us your videos. I love checking them out. I love hearing from you guys. Always great to be tapped in with the community. And once again, if you are a rapper and you freestyle and you want to send me something, harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. I react to one every solo ep. So excited to see a new one here today. This one comes from Luke M. And it looks like there's a message here accompanying this one, so I'll go ahead and read that quick. Luke says, not my best, but I've wanted to submit something for a while, and I know the feedback will help me progress, which rhymes. Not my best, but I wanted to submit something for a while, and I know the feedback will help me progress. Have been watching Harry Freestyle since 2017. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Big fan. Well, I'm excited to check this out. Here's Luke M. with the freestyle.
My heat's about to get gone. Wait for the beat to drop though. Harry Mack, Flow State Pop, big fan.
Hey.
Yo, my name is Luke. I'm brighter than a nuke. Every single time that I write it, they go, woo! Man, they wanna clap. Yeah, they wanna cheer. They can't believe that the kid is actually here. I mean, I'm shattering the atmosphere, shattering the planet. I didn't mean to do that, but you know I had to have it. I had these habits. Yo, I'm looking like a rabbit. Oh man, I'm rapping rapid. Oh man, what's he even saying? Going Super Saiyan. No, he's just displaying all his skill, all his practice. I used to spit the whack shit. Used to be green with envy like a cactus. When I was watching Harry Mack just spit this, man, and then I realized that I have this affliction of envy, that I don't have to be the MVP. No, I could be me and still be one of the best on the MIC MW3. I'm shooting my shot, COD, yeah, you know when that's a headshot.
Ooh, all right, let's go. Much love to Luke M. Appreciate that, man. That was dope. That was super dope. Green with envy like a cactus. Let's go, dog. I like that. I like that imagery a lot. That was fire, man. I love the cadence. I felt like you had a lot of clarity to your rhythmic approach. that's one thing that's really big for me, you know, as a musician, as a drummer in particular. I always love it when a freestyler, really any musician, but especially a freestyler, is very clear with their rhythm and their pocket. Like, it's not wishy-washy. It's not mushy at all. It's not ambiguous. I'm not like, oh, did you mean this? It's like, nah, this is right where the rhythm is. It's like, yeah, you were clearly hearing and feeling a specific rhythm, and you were expressing that same rhythm. So there was, coherency there. So that to me is really cool. And yeah, there was a lot of really nice, like, free-flowing, like multi-syllabic dense rhymes, right, packed in tight, right next to each other. Like rapping like a rabbit with the rabid rap. Like there was, I can't remember exactly what you said, but that was nice from a lyrical standpoint. And then it spun off the rails a little bit, and you were like, "What's he even saying? He's just going." And then you took that into a new free flow. What's he even saying? He's just going Super Saiyan without delaying. And it was like, okay, we're continuing this momentum here of these kind of densely packed in rhymes, which is a great effect. So I felt like that was really dope, man. And then also, like, what was great too is because I didn't realize at first when you said green with envy like a cactus, then you went to saying that when you watched like me do my thing, until you realize that you don't have to have that envy anymore because you could just be yourself and still be one of the best.
That's tight.
That's what it's all about right there, man. We can only be the best if we are our authentic selves. And, I can't do what you do, nobody can really do exactly what somebody else is doing. We can only do what we do. And you're well on your way, man. And you got a lot of things together already. And as long as you stick with it and continue practicing, you're going to continue filling in gaps and just get better and better. And you got the right mindset around it. And I could tell through that lyric that you expressed. And also, that's a pretty, that's not a easy concept necessarily to articulate with clarity while doing a freestyle. It's easy enough to say, yo, I'm dope. I kill it every time. I'm better than these other rappers. These dudes ain't shit. That's relatively easy to express. But to say, I used to feel envy watching another artist. Now I've found a way to let go of that envy. And now I have a new mindset that I can be myself and still achieve a lot. That's saying something, And I feel like that's what we want to do when we freestyle. We don't always just want to have dope bars and rhymes and impressive stuff like that. We also want to open our hearts, right? And learn things about ourselves and, share with the audience in a vulnerable way. So I really like that.
Good point. Yeah.
Luke M, man. Going in. Once again, man, we want to hear from you guys. HarryMackOfficial.com/FlowStatePod. Send me your questions. Send me your freestyles. Send me some coffee table books. No, please don't do that. Also, you can't. I guess you could send me like a PDF, but then that wouldn't be the thing at all.
PDF of a coffee table book.
That's not wanted. Yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that. But another great app, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. Just a reminder, we do have a whole new batch of beats in there.
Yes.
Luke was on one of our old school ones, which was awesome, but we got some freshies up in the drive. That's online. HarryMackOfficial.com/FlowStatePod.
Let's go. Yep. I love it, man. Well, I think it's about time we're going to close this thing out the way we always do, man.
Shut it down.
Let's go. Yeah. Okay, come on. Yeah. Okay, come on. Yeah. Come on. Hey, yo. This is Flow State Pod. It's the Flow State God. Listen. Yeah, spitting these flames right off the brain. I don't even take aim. H-A-R-R-Y, Mack is the name. Known for going insane, never simple and plain. I'ma keep spitting lyrics till my mental is drained. I maintain the funk, never play for the punk. I keep it real, authentic, never spitting no junk. Can't be no garbage artist, go the hardest. I'm starving with the passion. Me and these tracks ain't never clashing. Let's make it happen. Flow be sweet like syrup. This summer in July, we taking it to Europe. 3 festival stages, 3 headlines. one-liners, and y'all gon' hear from the off-the-head rhymer, improviser, fact synthesizer, never been one liver. Y'all know that I take it back to the classical era. I'm Tchaikovsky when I drop the brand new symphony. I do it on stage and cook it instantly. They into me, experiencing new songs for the first time. Live when I let the verse shine. Taking it to the stage, I engage with the audience forever and form a bond that's tougher than leather. You don't need no prior context, you don't need the single, cause there ain't no single. It's just the words I bring you. Through the QR code, I grab the words and topics, and then I go in the zone, spit that absurdist hot shit. I hit you hard and refuse to trade a barter with other rappers who use ghost authors. I'd rather slaughter the instrumental in front of the people and take a risk. I make it happen real quick, the flow is brisk, so bear the witness to this while I work it out like fitness and give you the whole pic, not just the gist. Come on, I'ma break it down live right in front of you. The fans are looking up like, Mac, what you gonna do? There ain't no telling, I'm witnessing it live through the revelations that I be having from deep inside. You experience it at the same time as me. Do it off the mental cause the rhyme is free. Trying to climb to the peak of the game, expressing my heart till the speakers in flames. Don't need no pyro, I get you high though, like hydro. Shouts to the originators like hieroglyphics. I'm here to spit this and flip this. Y'all know we shining, hitting rappers with the nitro glycerin when I'm rhyming. I be combining all the facts that I learned. Flame inside my spirit, till my soul starts to burn. I put it out to everyone, ain't no telling where we gonna go. Having revelations cause I'm staying vulnerable. Speaking on topics that got my soul ascending to heaven. I play a chord that's modal like Bill Evans. Make rappers feel kinda blue while I stretch for miles like Davis. Check the way that I rhyme, there's no replacement. I'm doing it better, I'm keeping it clever. You know that these rappers are done for, whether over bebop changes or over one chord. 24 bars at D-7. I keep on rhyming off the mental cause my mind's in heaven. I keep progressing whether chord progressions are behind me or whether I be getting loose with this. Producing this is truly sick. This dude just hits consistently. Come get with me and witness me, not with the eyes in your face, through your mind's eye. 747 bars cause my rhymes fly over they domes, deep in the zone. Revealing to myself what's never been shown. Reveal it to the audience emotionally deep. I would say in conversation, but I can't speak. I don't quite know what to say. That's how I feel, but then wait. The beat starts to drop, I hear the upright bass. Suddenly, I relax my face, take a deep breath. Instead of gripping tighter, I'ma let go while I'm inside this cipher. Start moving my body, now I know I'm about to go ape. The show is about to go great, he's entering the flow state. Suddenly the words are emerging when live in person. Shit I didn't even know about without a heart surgeon cutting me open. Either that or using the music for coping. My talk therapy, making y'all aware of me. They cherish me each time I get loose. Check the vibe that I produce. Y'all know that I'm setting the flow loose. Who you gon' choose? Y'all know Mack is killing it. Whenever he's rhyming right off of the mental, I got other people just feeling it inside they nervous system. What art inspires me? Flipping through coffee table books, I'm entirely absorbed. Give me more. All the different fonts, that's what I want. I love how they flaunt the different flexes. The clear page that can be open. Give y'all a contact high. Y'all know I'm doping. I start spitting like this. Go beyond the rappers that claim they heat. Check the pics from the contact sheet. Yo, a picture's worth 1,000 words. My flow's fat, so I own it. This here is a Kodak moment. I'ma break it down for all the people thought I was a musician. Change a letter and a syllable, the rapping magician. And you must listen to the way I bust visions. Trust it's hitting each and every time that it's flipping out my mental. I do it with no pen, without no pencil. For me, this shit is necessary. Yes, Harry's essential. To the industry, I instantly be cooking up the fire. What can you do when you feeling uninspired? Duh, I say this in the hardest way. Take a break, take yourself out on an artist date. Take a little bit of time to remember the play. Yeah, it can bring some heat to December, okay? And if you don't wanna do that, well son, I guess it's real. Just show up at 8 a.m. daily like Steven Pressfield. The war of art, just do the work. Go pro with the flow till it's too berserk. If you show up at the same time daily, you'd be crazy to not assume the muse will arrive. I truly get live, musical guide, choosing to fly over they dome. Around the planet it's known, I'm gigantic with these poems, I'm massive, so let me slide through. I hit you with the rapping haiku. On some, when I do my thing, I blow they mind every time. I'ma spread my wings. hit him once again. Mack ain't not the type to lose. Y'all know we gon' win. That's the 575. I get live while I drive. All my lyrics through you, and your spirit will do what it's supposed to do. Lifting up through your body. My rhyme style is godly. Y'all know it's hard body. Chick, plow, no shoddy. I do it from the mental. Y'all best to feel it. I'm hot like a skillet. I'm really here to kill it. It's difficult to deal with, so follow this. Max, no type of apologist. I know who I am, truly can get it done. See me on the corner with my man flipping new puns. Improvise off the top of the mental. Y'all know I drop mad quotes, rap quotes in the form of dad jokes. Pun after pun after pun. I'm having fun, get it done in my lyrical gun. It ain't never on stun. One of one. For these rappers, the flow is cumbersome, cause they can't master it. Never been a pacifist. When it comes to raw rapping and shit, I'm snapping too quick when on the Flow State podcast. Stay connected, but this ain't Comcast. Just keep it locked on this channel. Mack about to lead the whole game dismantled. This like that, y'all. And you know how we do. Shouts to y'all rapping for the Flow State crew. It's like that, y'all. And you know how I be. We in Flow State. Close my eyes and start to get free. Come on. We love y'all. Thanks for listening. Peace, peace, peace.